How about a bit of pillow talk? I want to talk tonight about my mother. She's one of, I think there are 13, she said of them. I'm not sure I stand corrected if I'm wrong. Some passed on, and she is one of four right now on the island that we live. And there are two girls and two boys here at the moment. She's I can't even remember where she is in between everybody, but she's 79. She will be 80 next year. Praise God. I'm glad that God has kept her all these years. She's not, she doesn't have any illnesses that affects her, except that her eyesight isn't as what it used to be. It isn't what it used to be. She has cataracts, and her eyesight is starting to get dark. Other than that, she's okay. She doesn't have diabetes. She doesn't have hypertension. Nothing. She's strong like an ox. Anyway, as far back as I can remember, my mom has always put her children before herself. She's one of the best moms I can say. She's a very unique woman, very unique person. She married my dad, and they had two kids, one of whom passed away at 3 years old. So I basically grew up by myself with my mom in a small village on the island, in a kind of secluded village. My grandmother lived close to the city, and we used to come and visit regularly, very regular. We used to be there regularly. I loved it there. Oh my God. We had some times and a half in that place. My grandmother was so sweet. She was one of the calmest. I don't think I've ever heard my grandmother raise her voice to shout at anyone from the time I can remember her. Unfortunately, she passed away. I think it's 1987. And the family hasn't been the same since. As usual, when the matriarch or the older heads go, sometimes we don't keep up with stuff that goes on in the family and all of that. Anyway, but we used to visit them a lot. It was, oh, I had times. We lived in the, as I said, we lived in a small village. Basically, it was just my mom and I because my dad sailed. He was a sailor. He was an engineer on a ship, and he would spend months away from us. Sometimes coming for like 2 weeks and going right back out. And that went on for years upon years upon years. I can remember. I think he came off the ship when I was, say, 11. No, I think it was before that. But I remember him being home from around close to those ages, that age there. And it was always my mom and I. And she was basically my playmate. Everything I wanted her to do, she would drop whatever she was doing, and she would come and she would play with me. Everything I wanted to do. No matter what crazy stuff I thought of, my mom was right there. She she took me shopping with her. Oh, I loved going shopping with her. I got everything I wanted. They spoiled me. I think I told you that in another pillow talk, but They spoil me. I don't mind. I never minded that. But I wanted when my dad came off the ship, I resented him for not for coming off the boat and interrupting me and my mom our time. Because it was I used to sleep with her when he wasn't here. So when he came, it's obvious I couldn't be there with her. And I used to be scared to sleep in my room by myself. Oh my God, I was so scared. I was a scaredy cat. I've been a scaredy cat most of my life. Yep. I I remember one time I went to the back of the house and I was there tying string from the house to the fence that we had. We had a fence, and I tied the string from the thing that comes down to the back of the out of the toilet and goes up in the air. I tied it on that and I tied it on the fence, and I was there doing high jump. I was jumping, and she was like, Cindy, I don't think that's a good idea. No, I don't. I think you might hurt yourself. And I wasn't even listening. I was jumping back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. All of a sudden, I jump over the over the string, and when I looked, I felt this burning pain in my toe, one of my toes. And when I looked down, lo and behold, my foot is bleeding. Where my toenail used to be, it was just a red pulp of flesh. My toenail was nowhere to be found. I had jumped over the string and jumped out my toenail out of the toe. Needless to say, I was screaming to the top of my lungs. And she came running. Didn't I tell you not to jump over that? I told you you would hurt yourself. And she got her kit, and she fixed my toe up. Of course, I got a sweetie, and she put me to sit down to relax. I was not an easy child. I was not an easy child. My mom would put me to sleep in the daytime, right? We had, our house had windows that were not too high off the ground. So I used to, well, she told me, because I can't remember, but she told me I would wait until she fall asleep. And as soon as her eyes would shut, I would climb. I could remember climbing off the bed. I could remember climbing through the window. And I would climb off the bed, climb through the window, and go to the neighbors. By the time she got up, I was bathed, my hair was combed, my clothes was changed. I don't know where they got clothes from. and I was waiting for her to get up from her rest. Yeah. As I said, I was not an easy child at all. I can see where my grandchildren get some of the stuff that they pull. Lord of mercy. I was a terror. I was a terror. For real. As a baby, she had a what they call a playpen for me, made out of board, and there were two halves in the bottom, and it was real wrong, and there were two halves in the bottom. She said that I would raise one of the halves up, crawl under the half, and come out. She would put me in the porch by my grandmother when we used to live there first, and I would be there screaming to the top of my lungs. She said one day there was this priest passing by the gate, And when he was passing, I was screaming to the top of, she said I was screaming and I was red like a plum. And the priest passed by and he said, "Oh my God, that's a wild one." Yeah, it was wild. It was wild, wild, wild. But my mom never, she just rolled with it. She didn't shout at me. She didn't. All she used to say is, "Be careful. Make sure you're safe. Be careful." And I could go and do anything I wanted to do. My mom was was before and still is. She don't read as much as before, but she still reads. But she was a really avid reader. My mom would read so many books, one after the other. I would always see her with a book in her hand. Always a book in her hand. Some Mills and Boone, Harlequin romance. Yeah. My mom loved to read. Or a detective. A detective novel. She loved to read. And I think I got my love of reading from one of my granddaughters. My daughters love to read. Another granddaughter picking it up. Yeah. She always had a book in her hand. She still does it up to now. If I carry a book for her, she would ask. I take a book in my and she will look at it. She say, "You reading a book? What kind of book is that?" When you finish with it, I like to read it. And I usually take her books and carry them and put them on the desk. See if she will read them. But these days, she mostly read her Bible. So she takes them, although she doesn't read them, she takes them and she put them in her drawer. And she has them there. I don't know why, but she has them back up in her drawer. Yeah. She was a very brilliant playmate. I didn't want a better playmate. We traveled and went around the Caribbean, and my mom would take me ashore with her to these different places, restaurants and so. And we would try food together. She'd be like, "How was the food? Did you like the food?" And I'd be like, she was like, "Yeah, I neither. I didn't like it either." My mom had the style that she had in those days. Oh my God. This woman could dress. Oh, wow. I used to admire clothes. Excuse me. She loved beautiful clothes. Beautiful clothes. Short mini skirts. Her dresses were always perfectly made. She was very slim. Her dress was always perfectly made, and her shoes. Wow. She loved shoes. Loved shoes and her bags, handbags. Oh my. She had class and style. Still does up to today. She doesn't dress up as much now as before, but she was a very classy, beautiful woman. Very classy. Very classy. Oh my God, she loved to tell all sorts of stories. I would hear all sorts of stories from her childhood. When my grandfather used to buy this big set of meat for them, my grandmother to cook for them. And she would cook this huge pot, and she would have a big bowl for herself, and my grandfather would get the best of everything for them. excuse me, tomatoes, some big huge tomatoes, and he would cut them up in the with food and bring big some huge fish and thing for mama to cook up for the children. Wow. My mom lived on the main street of our island for years, almost in the middle of town, right on the main road, Halifax Street. There's a place called Music Center there now. That was my grandmother's property. Once upon a time, she sold it and moved to Dayson Cottage years ago. And my mother, I think my mother preferred living in the city, in town. And she used to talk a lot about it, about life and in town. My grandmother had high upstairs and downstairs, high windows, and a breadfruit tree in the yard, and she used to climb the breadfruit tree. And one day, my uncle used to hide bananas up in that breadfruit tree, and she would and she would go and eat all of his bananas and come back down, and he would want to know, well, who eat the bananas and run her down. Mama had to save her from him. God, she was the tomboy of the family. She was the tomboy of the family. Always pitching marble, playing all sorts of games. Oh my God. She would be everybody's defender. She would tell me she was everybody's defender. She used to have to fight them in school for the sisters. Beat up other children for the sisters. She was the fighter in the family when she was young. Oh, she's a firecracker now still. You can't get her to do things she don't want to do right now. Unfortunately, at her age, she has dementia. And it's not as bad as some people. She still knows us. She still functions normally. And so most times I will hear her. I'll pass by her room and I will hear her in there talking and cackling out because she would be going back in the past because she remembers a lot from the past. And in the moment now, she remembers and then 1 minute she will remember and then another minute she wouldn't really remember. Well, who people, like if you tell her, well, XY call somebody name, she'll be like, who am I? She might remember them by putting face to name, but she remembers stories from the past still. And she would be in there talking the stories to herself. And yet all of a sudden you might hear her cackle out. She would laugh out loud. And I'd be like, well, she had to be some story she did tell him talking about or something from when they was young. She told me so many, so I have so many stories here. I remember one time she told me, my grandmother when my grandmother cooked, excuse me, she would also go and cook a little pot for herself. And one day she ate so much. She said when she finished eating, she felt like she was going to die. She felt like she was about to die. And she had to go under my grandmother. See, my grandmother had a big table under the bed. I can't remember if it was the table or the bed. But she went under there and she rolled back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until she fell asleep. Oh, she was so full. She fell asleep under there and woke up right there. Yeah, she have some stories. Oh my God, some stories that woman told me. Wow, some things large. It's too numerous to mention, and some of them are so funny. Oh my God. But my childhood was the best. Time spent with her in my younger days. Wow, it was the best. She was very, very. I got licks. I got, believe me, the way the child that I was, and the things that I got up to. Oh, I got licks. I'm a better person today for the licks, because if I didn't get them, I don't know. I might not. I mightn't even be here. God, the things I used to get up to. Oh my God. One time I was playing in the road, and the ball that we were playing with flew over the wall, over the bank, and I was the one. Of course, the tomboy that I was, I had to be the one to go for the ball. Of course, it was me. And they had just cut down what we called in our country Dungsplum. There was some thorns on the branches, and they had just cut some and threw them over the wall. So when I went down over the wall now and I jumped behind the ball, I found myself skating on my butt, skating down to the ball. And then I felt this sharp pain in my leg. My God, one of the thorns got stuck in my calf muscle. I screamed, I screamed. She came running, carried me in, proceeded to put, I can't remember what she put in, I think is, can't remember what at the time they used to put in those things to sterilize them. Excuse me. I have a slight cold. She would, she took a match and she light the bottom of a the needle, sorry, to sterilize it. And she proceeded to try to get the thorn out of my leg, because the hospital was too far away. Didn't make sense. And I screaming and she's fighting to get it out. And she fight, and I'm screaming and she's getting worried because she can't find it. And it's there in my leg, burning like not, I could remember it like it was today. It was burning like pepper in my foot. Oh my God. And then she squeezed it behind the thorn, and when she squeezed, it peeped out a little bit. And she ran for the tweezer. And she squeezed again and she popped the whole back of it and it came out. It was about, say, little more than half, 3/4 of an inch thorn inside the calf muscle. And she put some mercurochrome in it at the time, that's what they use, and a plaster, and I was back outside with the ball again. Yeah, that's the kind of kid I was. Back out with the ball in the road, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. I used to go out with my grandmother, run away a lot. And all I hear down there, like, she would call me a couple of times, She would call me a few times. I'd be like, I'm coming, Mom, I'm coming. And she would be like, Cindy, and I'd be like, Ma, coming. And then when you get overbearing now, yeah, Cindy. you come and bring a piece of whip and come? When I heard that, I was off like a jet plane. Of course, I'm picking the whip. I'm picking the whip. I pick a piece branch off my grandmother tree and I'm walking with it. I walk with it. And I would see her waiting for me. But take the peas whip and drop it by her foot and take off like a jet plane straight in the house. Take off like a jet plane. I would just drop and run. Well, I would. Most of the time, I didn't get licks. I got licks some of the time. Most of the time, I wouldn't get licks. That's the kind of mother she was. She knew how to make something out of nothing. Because we had some rough times, and she would make meals that you might think would not taste appealing because of what was lacking. But when my mom finished with it, oh my God, you will not believe. And I was a picky eater also. I used to eat out the meat out the food, leave everything. She said most of the time I wanted bread and tea. I just wanted bread and tea. What's better than bread and tea anyway? Food, never, it was never I never wanted the food. I wanted the meat. Yeah, I wanted the meat out of the food. But that was it. I didn't want the food. And that was a problem she had with me for years. Maybe that's why now I have this nasty stomach problem. But that is neither here nor there. But my mom is one in a million. I thank God for her every day. I thank God for her every day that she's still around. She might not be in 100% what she would like to be. I might not be able to do 100% of what I want for her. But I try my best. And I do what I can. I used to always say to her, have more kids. When my brother passed, I would say, Mom, I want another brother or sister. She never did. She never did. So it's just me. And it's difficult, and I'm sad sometimes that I can't do more because it's just me. And I have made a mess of my life one way or another. But by the grace of God, we get through. We get through the day. And if your mother is around still and you have her with you, cherish her no matter what. Take time and sit and talk with her and get as much of the value that she has to give, everything that all the memories that she can pass on. Soak it up. Soak it up like a sponge. Because when they're gone, they're gone. There's no coming back. And I don't even want to think of that happening at all. But by the grace of God, she'll be around for a couple more years, 20 something more years. If he says so, it can be so. I put my trust in him and I ask him every day to keep her. And I put the function normally. I try my best to get her all that she needs to try and help her memory. And She doesn't complain. She doesn't complain at all. She just wants to go by her mother every day. She asked me today if her mom is okay. I said, yeah, she's alright. But I told her, yeah, she's alright. Because in the moment, that's all I could say. Because the last time I told her she had passed, she cried. She literally break down crying. And I don't want her to experience that. Like every time she asks, I don't want her to experience that same feeling over and over again. So, yeah. She wants to go every day and visit her. Just make sure she's okay. Yeah. But my mom, one in a million. If you have a mom, love her and cherish her. Take care of her. You're only gonna get one. Nobody can take her place. Nobody. No matter what, nobody can take her place. She's all you're gonna get. Person who brought you into this world, who nurtured you, who nursed you, who held you when you hurt your bum, who patched you up when you bruised your knees up. I bruised my knees so many times it isn't funny. And my mom was always there to patch me up and make everything right. Give me some treat when I needed it, some advice when I needed it, something. She was always there, and she still is always there. She's right there. And by the grace of God, she's gonna be okay. We're gonna be okay. I might not have it all, but at least we have each other. We have each of us. We're all surrounding her. We're all here with her. We all take care of her. I thank God for her every single day. Again, if you have your mother, cherish her, take care of her, love her. So until next time, don't forget, subscribe, share, like, comment, and I'll see you for another Pillow Talk soon. Bye bye.